everybody, and thanks for joining me today. So, more work on the peacock's tail. There's again another eye motif right here. That is what I am planning to tackle today. Yeah. Just adding a feather at a time. I am loving watching this slowly come to life. Yeah, once again, I have the house to myself, so we should hopefully not have background noise, although it is a bit of a windy day, so. But it's the prairies. It's always windy. Yeah, my husband had to go out to the transmitter site for work, and kiddo went with him. Yeah, our son is interested in following in his dad's footsteps to become broadcast engineer, so. But he's always liked going with him even when he was younger, so. Yeah. Out in the middle of a field somewhere. Yeah, at least nice thing in summers, you don't have to worry about getting stuck in the snow, because that has happened more than once in the winter. Yeah, they have a company that's supposed to plow it, keep the path to it clear, but yeah, they're not always so good at keeping up with that. And yeah, my husband has been stuck a few times. Like, the company provides him with a 4x4 truck, but I mean, even that, right? You can't go everywhere in them. It's not, like I said, it's not an off-road vehicle. It's not designed for it. And even off-road vehicles can get stuck too. So, yeah. That was why when my husband was part of a off-road club, you had to go out in groups just in case you got stuck, because, yeah, you don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere by yourself, possibly with no cell service. Yeah, so we told our kiddo when he got his Jeep stuck a week after he was able to start driving it once he learned the manual transmission. Yeah, he went to turn around in a muddy field and he got stuck. And yeah, it's a 4x4, but it's meant for like icy road conditions. It's not meant for, yeah, off-road conditions. And he got it good and stuck up to the fenders. Oh. Yeah, my husband had to do a good amount of digging while we waited for the tow truck to show up, and yeah, one of the tow truck guys lost his boots in the mud. It was a really, yeah, gooey stuff that just trapped like glue. Oh, hang on a second. First, there's a different order I want to do things in. Yeah, as much as I can, when I can do a bunch of one color in a row, I try to do that. I think I might get these last 3 stitches out of that strand, and that will probably be it. Yeah, it's really lovely weather right now. Nice and sunny, but not too hot. I am definitely not somebody who likes it to be roasting, that's for sure. But yeah, it's kind of at that perfect temperature where we don't have to run the air conditioner and we don't really have to run the heat either. It just kind of stays right around that sweet spot, so that's nice. I can still use the oven without the house getting too hot and all that, so. Yeah, I always say they have science fiction stuff. They show Paradise Islands and they're like eternal summer, and I'm like, no, I'd want eternal autumn. That would be perfect. Yeah. It's not freezing cold winter, but there's enough of a chill in the air that you're can wear a jacket and you won't get, yeah, you won't get too warm. The harvest is all coming in. Oops, that was wrong. Yeah, around here, I mean, spring is the same kind of moderate temperatures, but around here, because of the snowpack melting, you have a season of mud. Yeah, it's like a month of just mud everywhere. Yeah, they finally cleaned our street. Because, yeah, they spray sand down in the winter. So then in the summer, they have to clean it up again. Because, yeah, it's good for traction in the winter, but in the summer, it actually makes it worse. When there's no ice. Yeah. Yeah, and it was, my son's Jeep was on the street, so I had to go bug him to move it into the driveway, because I can't, because it's manual, and I have not learned yet. Ooh. Yeah, it's funny because they used to call that standard because, of course, when automatic transmissions came out, they were the new thing, right? They were the special order, and having a manual was the standard. And then now nobody calls it that because, yeah, most new vehicles you get nowadays are automatic. Yeah, it was like we said, I had a hard time finding because they said very few people order new manuals. So any used ones that go on sale get snapped up pretty quickly. So we were lucky we found this one because it was at a smaller dealership where it was like the city it was in or town it was in was like population 5,000 people. So yeah, big enough to have a dealership, but small enough that, yeah, there weren't as many drivers out there who can drive a stick. So it had been there for like 3 months. And yeah, so, because, yeah, we said it was pretty low mileage. It was about 70,000 kilometers for an almost 10-year-old vehicle, which is, you know, really good for that age. And yeah, if it had been an automatic, yeah, it would have been immediately purchased by somebody. But yeah, because it was a manual, usually they get snapped up pretty quick, but that one, because it wasn't in a major city, because, yeah, the ones that are in big cities like Edmonton, Calgary, they're gone. Like my husband says, the instant they get listed, boom, someone buys them. So yeah, we were telling our kiddo, you know, maybe you're gonna have to not have a stick. It might just be because, yeah, he was saying what he wanted, and we said, well, you know, part of buying a used vehicle though is you get, depending on what's available, you don't get to special order it, right? So yeah. Yeah, he said he wanted a manual RAV4 Toyota, but those are really hard to get a hold of. Because, yeah, most of them are in automatic and the manuals go really fast, so. And they were a bit out of our price range, too, so, yeah. Because, yeah, we saw one and then, yeah, it was like twice what we were thinking of spending. It's like, that's not happening. Especially when my husband went and looked up the Blue Book value and said, yeah, basically, if we were to get it written off as we were driving it home, we'd get maybe half of what we spent on it back. We're not willing to take that risk, especially not when it's going to be for our son, who's still a fairly new driver, right? So, yeah, he's only had his license for just over a year, so. But yeah, when he got the truck stuck in the, or the Jeep stuck in the muddy field, it was because the old one that he was driving probably would have made it. So, because that one is an actual off-road vehicle. Well, we don't have it anymore, but yeah. Okay, so what is not in my envelope tray? Yeah, lots of colors here on the peacock's tail. Oh yeah, this is another color we're going to have to see whether I have enough thread. It's going to be close as to whether I have enough. Let's see. But yeah, I always remind myself, even if what is left in my envelope doesn't look like there'll be enough, I have to remember I do have some threads that are already attached that will do some more stitches too, so there is that as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is fill in that little indentation there. And then that bit there. So, like I say, I try not to close it on all four sides. Sometimes with this way of stitching, it gets closed in on 3. But yeah, for quite a while I was doing where I stitched diagonally and tried to make it so it was only closed in on 2 sides, but I found that required a lot more frequent color changes, and it slowed me down a bit, and I find this is a little quicker while still remaining fairly neat, because that's one of the reasons I try to stitch without gaps, is I find my resulting stitches are a little neater when all is said and done. Okay, this one I will probably cross a bit as I go, because I want my thread to end up on the other side of this run here. So I know a lot of people actually swear by crossing every X as you go to make it a little neater. I haven't really noticed much of a difference in my own stitching, so yeah, I use sort of a combination of techniques depending on where I want my thread to end up when I'm finished. Okay, so if this was a longer strand, I would probably do that same thing. Cross as I go, but this is only going to be long enough to do these 3 here, so I won't worry about that. This is a super bright color, and I find if I pin stitch it in an area that hasn't been stitched yet, then I deal with a lot of it trying to make a reappearance on the other side, and that is a big pain. So yeah, I'm going to fill in this, and then I'm going to start filling in some more towards the bottom of my work. Yeah, the way I'm stitching right now, it means the very top part sort of gets filled in last. But yeah, because all the colors are sort of going that way, I find it easier to do it that way. Okay, let's see how long this piece is. Ah, yeah, not very. So again, I don't think I will cross as I go. I'll add another piece later when I'm doing that side there. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to do all of these ones here along this edge and then tie off this thread. So, because I'm going to start the renovations soon. And yeah, so instead of traveling, that's what we're doing this summer. I don't know. I find both stressful, but maybe the traveling's a little less stressful. But I'm going to use the opportunity because I have to clear out my closet because, of course, they have to put carpet in there as well. So using the opportunity to go through my clothes and get rid of some stuff that I just never wear. Yeah. I was pulling some off hangers that, you know, they've been there for years, and they actually, some of them had dust on the top. So that goes to show how little I've worn them. So yeah, at this point, I feel like it's just a waste for me to keep hanging on them when I never wear them and somebody else could get some use out of them. So I'll donate them to the local thrift store. It benefits the women's shelter, so goes to a good cause. I'm gonna be a little laggy today, huh? Okay. We'll see if it wakes up or not. Sometimes when it's like that, it needs a reboot, and sometimes it sort of warms up on its own, because I did actually start from 0 today. So, okay, so either place to park is going to probably be about the same. So I think I'm going to carry this up to the top because I'm going to start filling in from the top again. So I've done some at the bottom of this curve, and then I'm going to do some at the top again. Either way, it's going to kind of close in on itself a little bit. That's just the way it works out. Oh, goodness, pardon me. I actually slept pretty well last night, so yeah. So I seem to have found the combination that works. I have my nasal dilators, and I use brown noise because I find my nose squeaks sometimes, and it's very annoying. And nothing I do seems to make it stop. Like they've said, oh, you know, make sure everything's moisturized, use a neti pot and all this stuff, and I have, and it doesn't matter. It still squeaks and drives me completely bonkers. So before I was using earplugs, but then the problem is I could still hear it because it's my own nose doing it, right? So it doesn't bother my husband, but yeah, I'm a pretty light sleeper. It was driving me mad. Plus, this way too, if he happens to snore, I don't really hear him. So yeah, I got those Sleep Phones headphones. They're like a headband, and goes around your ears and forehead, and there's flat little speakers in them, so you can lie on them and it's not uncomfortable like it would be with an earbud in your ear. And yeah, that's working really well. They sell Bluetooth versions, but I actually went for the version that has a cord because I'm really bad for remembering to keep things charged. And yeah, last thing I want to do is have it die on me in the middle of the night. So, plus the one with the cord is a little bit cheaper too. So that was kind of a bonus. Yeah, I know some people don't like the cord because they figure it'll get tangled, but I mostly sleep on my left side like 90% of the night, and I don't really turn over that much, so it hasn't really been an issue. Yeah, and I think I got those a couple of years ago because, well, over a year ago, because, yeah, I was having that issue with my ear after I had an ear infection. It was making this humming noise, but unfortunately it wasn't like a steady humming noise. It was like Morse code. It was driving me totally nuts. I couldn't sleep at all. And so, yeah, I broke down and bought those to help me. And yeah, it settled down after a couple of months. So I stopped using it, but then, yeah, I started having this snoring myself and stuff. So, yeah, it feels like every time I find a solution, another problem pops up, but hopefully, cross my fingers, I seem to be good now because, yeah, you can't get decent sleep. It affects everything. You know, I'll have friends who say, like, they feel like they're overreacting by having such a problem with sleep deprivation. I'm like, yeah, but, like, it's literal torture. Like, yeah. You cannot survive without it. I think they said the longest anybody ever went without sleep was 11 days in a row. Like, ooh, just the idea. Like, he survived, but so they don't know whether it would have actually, you know, but I mean, yeah. Ooh. Yeah, I yawn a lot because of my medication. Apparently, it's a fairly common side effect along with shortness of breath, which I did notice at first, but I don't really have as much of an issue with now. I got used to it, but yeah, I think that's why it makes me yawn. A little sort of catch up. Okay, so do those. So yeah, I can see where the color changes. So right about here is where we're gonna do that, and then the color starts to carry on this way, and we will go from there. Oops, I trapped my ends in the loop, which I don't want to do. There we go. Yeah, because I think, looking at my printout here, yeah, there's another sort of big feather that's going to appear right about there. So that's why that color starts to slope that way. So this is pass number 4. Yeah, and then we'll have 5 more. But my top 2 passes were a bit bigger, so that's why we were closing in on 50% here. We won't be quite 50% when this pass is done, though. It'll be about halfway through the next pass is when we'll hit the half done mark. That's always a fun milestone. It was funny, though, because one of my friends shared a meme that said life cycle of a handmade project, and oh wow, this is so much fun. Oh, I've made so much progress, and then oh man, I'm not even halfway, and then yay, I'm halfway, and then oh, I'm only halfway. This is gonna take forever. And then yeah, oh thank goodness this is done, and then yeah, start the whole cycle again. Of course, that's assuming you stick to one project at a time, which I know many of us do not. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have many projects at a time for cross stitch, but for knitting, yeah, very guilty. Got a couple of sweaters on needles that have been that way. I think 3 of them actually that have been that way for over 10 years. Yeah, I knit a lot, and then I kind of don't knit as much and took up cross stitch, and so there's only so many hours in a day, right? Yeah. And I got some blankets in pieces that are slowly coming along because, like, I have knit blankets in one piece, but I like to have the ones that are in smaller pieces you sew together later for when I'm, for portable products because, yeah, taking on a huge blanket that's going to cover your whole bed is kind of not very practical to haul around with you, so. But yeah, I do always have some knitting going, especially during the winter because when I watch figure skating, yeah, I can't cross stitch. I have to knit because I don't really have to look at my hands, so I can do it by feel, but you definitely can't do that with this hobby. Yeah, I remember reading a story about a gal who had really bad eyesight, and so she couldn't really do like the sewing and stuff in home ec. This was, way back. And she wanted to read a book, but of course, like for home ec, you have to do something. And so the teacher said, oh, you can knit. Blind people make wonderful knitters. And she said, oh, maybe blind people did, but almost blind person myself did not. Yeah. And that the teacher would cast on some stitches for her and she would just knit them back and forth. And at the end of every class, they would have everybody hold up their work to show what they had done that class. And she said, and hers was always, full of drop stitches and just looked terrible. And the teacher would unravel it by the end of the day and then just start her again the next class. And she said, anyway, finally one day, the teacher had only cast on the one stitch, the slip knot. And some other kid asked for help or something, and she forgot to ever come back to the student and cast on any more stitches because she didn't teach her how to cast on, just how to do the knit stitch. And she said, so she just started knitting the one stitch, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then at the end of the class, they had to hold up showing what they'd done, whatever, girls working on sewing projects and things, showing the progress. And so she holds up her long, big, skinny chain, right, of single stitches that she'd done. This is what I've accomplished. And the teacher kind of looked at it like, oh. And she said, and then after that, she was just kind of like, yeah, let's not bother making you knit anymore. You can just read and I'll just give you credit because, yeah. So it was funny. I'm thinking if you couldn't see, you could maybe knit and purl evenly okay, but you would need someone's help when you need to do things like pick up stitches and stuff like that, right? I mean, maybe you could do it by feel, but it would be a lot tougher. Okay. Yeah, inherited knitting from my grandma, I think. My sister learned too. It was one summer we were staying with them for a few days while my parents went and, had a vacation to themselves. And, yeah, asked grandma if she could teach us how to knit. So she did. And we both did it for a while, but my sister kind of lost interest after a while. Yeah. And, I did for a while. And then I kind of, because she only taught me basics like cast on, knit stitch, cast off. And then years later, I decided I wanted to learn the rest of it. So I went and bought a little kit at the craft store that had a little instruction book and some different sizes of needles and stitch counters and stitch markers and that kind of thing. And yeah, I learned the rest from there. This was like early 2000s before we had as much internet access as we do now. So yeah, I learned from a book, and then I learned some advanced techniques online later as Ravelry became a thing. yeah, if you are a knitter or a crocheter, I highly recommend it. It's like Facebook for knitters and crocheters. So, and honestly, it's worth joining just for they have such a huge database of free patterns. Yeah. And it's really nice because people will upload pictures of their own projects and like notes of things they changed about the pattern and errors to watch out for. It's such a useful resource. Yeah, I learned so much on that website. I mean, there definitely were lovely patterns I paid for too, but yeah, like I said, there's just so many good free ones that, yeah. And they have forums so that you can ask for help from more experienced crafters if you need help. And yeah, oh dear, I made some friends on there that we also connected on Facebook, and yeah, we are still friends years later. So it's kind of funny because you can also browse products at random, and they have different categories. There's 5 stars for, you know, something that was some of your best work, you're really happy, all the way down to 1 star, and below that they have what they call the UGG projects, which are the ones that did not turn out at all. And sometimes those are fun to browse through just to see some of the disasters people have had. Yeah. And I've had some of my own, that is for sure. Yeah. My goodness, that's a lot of sirens, I hope. I hope everyone will be okay. Dear, that end is being very persistent, isn't it? Yeah, thankfully, we did a huge decluttering of our house a few years ago, so at least our closets aren't totally full. So when we have to move everything out of them so that they can be carpeted, yeah, it was sort of after we'd been in the house 10 years, things had built up because I was used to moving every couple of years, and when you move that often, you tend to declutter every time you're moving. Yeah, when you have to pack something and unpack it, you very quickly go, yeah, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't really need that. And yeah, but yeah, once you've been living somewhere for a decade, we had to go through and yeah, somehow I missed our kids' change table. Oh, it was actually from my in-laws. They still had it. And so before a kid was born, we asked if we could borrow it. And then we did. And then sort of afterwards, I'm kind of like, well, I guess you don't really need it back, right? Yeah, they're like, oh, yeah, just get rid of it for us. Because, yeah. their grandkids are all a little ways away from them because only 2 of their kids have had kids. Well, 3 now, but at the time, only 2. And all of us lived in the next province. So yeah, it really wasn't that practical for them to keep a change table. Like if you lived, you know, really close by and you were there with your babies all the time, it might be useful, but yeah. So, but yeah, it was funny because my mother-in-law was bugging us for years if we're gonna have any more kids, and yeah, then I said at that point, I said, do you want the change table back, or should we just get rid of it because yeah, we're done with baby stuff? And she kind of kind of deflated, but yeah. But I said, hey, your other kid has 7 kids, so you definitely weren't hurting for grandchildren. Yeah. We always wanted to have at least 2, but it just was not in the cards for us. So yeah, that's just life, right? Yeah. You can have your plans all you want, but yeah, a lot of it is just not in your control. Yeah, that was like someone we knew. They decided to have one more kid, and then surprise, guess what? It's twins. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I tell you, I don't even have as many pin stitches in this area as I do in some places, but the ends are really making pests of themselves today. Okay, so I won't stitch this one because it's not yet connected to anything already stitched. Switch to another color. So yeah, like I say, I always try to have it connected on at least one side to previously completed stitches. So I'm going to do all of this color here because they are all connected. It's easier to do one color and then tie off as long as I'm not leaving gaps. Then I will work around it. Yeah, I've been telling my husband I might be interested in getting another guinea pig at some point. Well, we get 2. Usually you need to get at least 2 because they're social and they can get lonely. Our guinea pig was weird and she liked her own company. I mean, she didn't mind other piggies around too, as long as they stayed out of her cage. But yeah, otherwise she'd fight with them. Yeah, because we tried that. My sister-in-law was staying with us. She had a guinea pig and we tried putting them together, and yeah, they're both dominant personalities, so that just wasn't going to happen. Yeah, as soon as one of them decided to try to assert her dominance, the other one fought back, and yeah, that was it. They would happily talk to each other from separate cages, but yeah, you couldn't generally put them together. Yeah, there were a couple times, as long as it wasn't in either of them caged, so it wasn't a territory thing. Occasionally we were able to put them together, but most of the time, yeah, they did not get along. Yeah, they said usually they'll put the siblings together in the store, and so yeah, you can buy, you know, a couple brothers or a couple sisters, and then they know each other and they're happy. They form a bonded pair, they call them sometimes. So yeah, but yeah, my sister-in-law, she had another one because it was 3 brothers from the same litter, and somebody bought only 2, and the third one was all depressed, poor thing. Once his brothers were gone, yeah, she said he just lay there and stopped eating, and she felt so bad for the poor guy. So she got him and brought him home, and she had another male piggy there. So again, they didn't get along if you put them in the same cage, but as long as they could be side by side cages and see each other and talk to each other, then they were happy. That gave them their socialization that they needed. So yeah. But yeah, like just every now and then I get a little sad because I was shucking corn for corn on the cob the other day, and remembering how our previous piggy, Miss Buster, she just loved corn silk. Yeah. She would eat the husks a little bit too, but the corn silk, that was a treat for her. She absolutely loved it. So yeah, or sort of every time I'm dealing with broccoli and there's a broccoli leaf in there, it makes me a little sad because that was one of her favorite foods. She didn't get it very often. And yeah, she loved it. So yeah, I used to sometimes when I was buying broccoli, I would see leaves and stuff that people had snapped off of other heads of broccoli, and I would actually put it in the bag. And I'm sure people are like, "What the heck is she buying that part?" But yeah, it was for the piggy. Okay, so I did this one with its own piece, and then I'm going to start a whole brand new large piece to carry it from the top and down around to this shape here. Actually, let me see. I'm going to do this one here in this corner first. Although I suppose it doesn't really matter. I could have done a different color, but now that I've started, I might as well. I'll do that one and then put it up here. So yeah, this is, like I said, the eye motif, and then it's going to change to some other colors later, which I will tackle if I have the time. But yeah, it's been a little slower going this time because a bit more color changes. Okay, get a new strand here. Yeah, I really like this color. It's very pretty. It's almost the same color as my son's Jeep. Yeah. Because there's a little bit of a lighter blue than this, but it's pretty close. Yeah, so next school year, kiddo was taking game design for one of his electives, which he's looking forward to doing. Yeah, he shouldn't have too stressful of a senior year because he's already got a lot of his graduation credits completed now this year. So his science credit is done, his math credit is done. So that leaves just his language skills, English language arts, and his social studies credit for next year, which he's taking history. And then, yeah, and then he just needs like a couple more courses to make up his credits. So yeah, he'll have at least one spare, maybe two next year. So yeah, it should be not too stressful for him. So that's always nice. 'Cause yeah, everything was passed. So he did this year, which I wasn't really worried. So yeah. Yeah, he's signed up to try pre-calc next year. Math is not a strong suit for him. It was when he was younger, but it's a little harder now. But yeah, he doesn't need it for graduation. So we always said if it turns out it's getting to be too tough for you, you can always drop it. So yeah, my parents made me take calculus, and I don't have a math brain, and I did not do well. I passed, but I said I hate it. It always is a kind of sore spot on my transcript because everything else was good grades, and then that was not so good. So I wanted to drop it and they wouldn't let me. And the thing is like I never expressed an interest in a career path that was going to need it. Like I never expressed an interest in being like some kind of engineer or physicist or anything like that. But yeah, I really wanted to drop it because I dropped computer programming. I decided to give it a try because, I read at the time there's a lot of careers in that because, of course, computers just keep on improving and such. But again, because I don't have a math brain, I don't think it worked. I wasn't able to grasp that either because it's kind of a similar path. So I dropped that one because I didn't need it for graduation. And I had plenty of credits and other stuff. And I wanted to drop calculus too, and they wouldn't let me. And I mean, I should have just done it. What were they going to do about it, right? But I think they just pushed me because they wanted to be able to brag that my daughter's taking calculus. Because, of course, our school had only just brought calculus in that year. It was like if there was enough interest. And, yeah. Honestly, I think it was partly from watching the movie Stand and Deliver, which was made in the 80s. Which was based on a true story about a teacher at an inner city school who brought in a calculus class, and everyone told him the kids weren't going to be able to handle it. And they did, but at first everyone assumed that they were cheating because on their exam, and they weren't. And yeah, so they had to retake the test again to prove that they actually understood it. And I don't know, my parents loved that movie. It was one of their favorites, and I think it just got in their head that taking calculus means success. And so I don't know. Anyway, it was their dream that I take it, not mine. My sister didn't end up having to take it, but yeah. Like I said, I wasn't happy about it. It was so stressful. I honestly was one of those things where I didn't really understand it. I just kind of memorized and was able to repeat on an exam a lot of stuff by rote. But yeah. Well, that's what they never understood, is that's how I always kind of was with math. Yeah. Like, they said, well, you did so well in 11th grade math. You got, you got an A, so you'll have no problem with calculus. And I'm like, but it's because I test well, not necessarily because I understand the information. Because I've always tested well. I've always been good at memorizing stuff and repeating it back, whether I actually grasp the material or not. And so they didn't understand when I was trying to explain that to them, that because I know there's plenty of people who don't test well who actually are good at it, but they have, you know, test anxiety or whatever, or the way the test is constructed doesn't work with their strengths. And then, yeah, there's other people like me who test well, whether they actually have a good working knowledge of the subject or not. Yeah. And they made me take Math 12 as well, and the same thing. Both of those I got C's, and I did not do well, so, yeah. Because I said if it was like grade 8 math's like one step and grade 9, you know, each, because I said then grade 12 math is like 5 steps at once. Like, yeah. It was so much harder. It was like 5 times harder, so, yeah. Yeah, I can understand enough math to get by. I can do, you know, all the basics. I can do algebra, because they end up actually having to use a fair bit of algebra in knitting if you're making garments and you want them to fit. Yeah. But, yeah, beyond that, not good. Trigonometry was just completely whoosh over my head. And yeah, in grade 12, it was very complex. And yeah. Sine, cosine, tan. I don't remember any of that stuff anymore. Quadratic equations, I could never figure out what they were even for. My husband's used them because, again, he's an engineer, but he has a math brain. So, yeah. My dad said he had to use it. He took a forestry in college, which involved some engineering, and he said, yeah, he remembers his the instructor putting it up on the board and said, I bet you guys thought you'd never see these again, and everybody groaning, oh no, not quadratics. Yeah. Yeah, I always ask, like, what are we going to use this for in real life? And I mean, I guess they must have answered, but the answer didn't make any sense to me because it just went in one ear and out the other. So, okay, just gonna change position here. Yeah, when I'm stitching without the camera, I actually move my frame sort of back and forth out of my way. But of course, when I'm on camera, I want things to stay centered, so I have to move myself around the frame rather than the frame around. So yeah, that tends to make me a little more sore if I'm not careful. So yeah, you can see this eye motif is pretty much done. Gonna start growing out from around that and sort of filling this in pretty soon, I think. There's still a few more to be of these threads that are already parked here to be handled, so we'll deal with them first. Yeah, so my husband and I just started watching Prison Break, which quite a few people recommended to us. Actually recommended to us like years ago. Yeah, because it premiered 2005. And again, it was one of those shows that you have to start it from the beginning or you're going to be lost, right? We're about 4 episodes in now. And yeah, it was another of those like Arrow that by the time I kind of thought, oh, that looks kind of interesting, by the time I'd heard about it and seen enough previews, but by then it was like already 10 episodes in. Yeah, trying to jump in then was not going to happen, and you couldn't stream it because this was in the days of cable. Yeah, so, or at least that's what we had, so yeah. So yeah, quite a few people recommended it to me over the years, and I had it on the list for a long time, so now we're finally trying, and it's pretty good. Yeah. We are enjoying it so far. Well, it's kind of nice too, actually, when you have a show that's already completed by the time you discover it, so you don't have to wait, years in between. Yeah, you can binge the whole thing. Because apparently, the early 2000s Battlestar Galactica, someone was saying, had a really big gap in between. I think it was like the last season and the season before, something, because there was a big strike going on, something like that. And so they said the show really suffered a loss of momentum because of that. But when we watched it, we bought it on Blu-ray and got to watch the whole thing, beginning to end without any breaks. And so we loved it. But yeah, experience could vary, I suppose, if you had to wait 2 years in between. And of course, again, no on-demand streaming, so you might have forgotten a lot of it by the time the show finally came back, right? It's not like you could rewatch it and catch up again unless you were lucky enough that your cable station played it again. Yeah, that was a meme I saw that said, you kids don't understand how good you have it. If we missed an episode of a show, that was it. It was just gone forever. And they said, well, why can't you just stream it? They're like, oh, honey, that was not a thing. Yeah. You watched what was airing, and that was it. And maybe if you were lucky, your parents would let you tape it on a VCR. Yeah. Our entertainment system actually still does have a VCR. My husband built it in, even though, not much uses that anymore. But, yeah. Well, we have some home movies, weddings and things that are on tape still. So we want to be able to see that. But, yeah, we really should digitize it, I know, because tapes especially, they do degrade over time. Yeah, when we were kids, we actually had a Betamax machine instead of VHS for a long time. And actually, they were better quality than the VHS, but VHS was cheaper, so yeah, it ended up dominating. But I remember, like, Betamax reels were very long, and each tape could hold, like, 8 hours or something, and yeah, the quality was better, so. But yeah, I remember the last time my dad bought Betamax tapes was at Sears, and I think they were doing the clear out of the very last of their inventory, and they weren't going to get any more. So, yeah. But yeah, it's funny because I was talking about showing my kid The Sound of Music, and I said, my sister and I watched this movie like every day for a year or something, and one of my friends says, oh, so you guys were privileged enough that you had a recording of it. I said, yeah, but really dating myself here, it was on Betamax. Yeah. That was back in the days of the PBS marathons, when instead of ads, they would have breaks where they kept asking people to pledge money. And if you pledged a certain amount, they would give you, so like if you pledged like $100, they'd send you a copy of the movie, which of course is a lot more expensive than the movie cost. It was because it was meant to be a charitable donation, and that was sort of a bonus. And yeah, I don't know if they have those anymore. We used to watch those all the time because that was the best way to catch the British comedies in Canada. Where the PBS marathons, they'd have them of Monty Python, or not Monty Python, what is it? Fawlty Towers. Yeah, I got it mixed up because John Cleese was in both of those. Fawlty Towers and Red Dwarf. Yeah, which we tried to get our kid into, but he wasn't interested. But yeah, we loved those. I started watching those when I was like 14 or something. And it was funny. I got my best friend into it. And we had science. We were in the same science class the next year. And so as a joke, every time the teacher would explain something really complicated, we'd look at each other and say in a cat voice, so what is it? Because yeah, there's an episode where they have a stasis leak and they're trying to explain to him what it is. And he just keeps saying, so what is it? And then one of them gives an explanation and he turns to the other one. So what is it? And because he just doesn't get it. And finally at the end they say, oh, it's a magic door. He says, oh, oh, a magic door. Why didn't she say so? So yeah, that became our thing. Like, even if we understood the concept, yeah, we just look at each other and say, so what is it? That's always fun, right? When you and your friend are part of the same fandom, and so you can quote it at each other, and people who aren't will not get it, will not get the joke, but yeah, you do. Yeah, it was funny. Or like one time when my son was like 10 years old, instead of using a nail clipper, he started biting at his toenails. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my kid just pulled a Dave Lister, because yeah, the character on Red Dwarf did that all the time. Or yeah, there was when my husband went to out of town, he had a coworker who was Scottish who had a tin of haggis, and then I said, oh, is it irradiated though? And then I said, bonus points if you get the reference. I had it on Facebook, and I had people like, what? Because yeah, that's a joke from Red Dwarf where they're doing inventory and they have, I can't remember how many, is 4,000 something irradiated haggis. And yeah, so I'll see if I can find the clip on YouTube. I'll post a link to it, so if you don't watch the show, you'll understand it a little better. Yeah. That show was so much fun, except for season 8, I think it was. Oh, that was terrible. Because what happened was there were co-creators of the show, and then one of them left to pursue other projects, and the other guy tried to continue on with it. And obviously the magic in that show was in their synergy together, because yeah, when it was just the one guy, there was like one episode I remember being moderately funny, but the rest were just not. And people warned me, but I thought, oh, come on, how bad could it be? And then, yeah, it was not good. We have watched the whole thing several times, but we never bothered watching that season again because, yeah, it was just like the old ones were so funny constantly, and then it was like they had sort of one or two times a episode they were like, okay, haha, that was kind of funny, but yeah. Comedy is a hard thing to do. Yeah. It's one of those things you can kill it with love, right? If you try too hard to be funny, it's not funny. Yeah. It's hard to get that balance. Just like with parody, you have to be just ridiculous enough that it's silly, but not so ridiculous that people just kind of go, okay, you're just completely ridiculous and, yeah, trying too hard. Yeah. Yeah, so here is where we're starting to come out from the eye here. Let me take a look at what other colors. So yeah, that's what I may do next. Is just sort of keep growing out from here until we merge into the next sort of shape. But yeah, I think it'll be time for me to take a break soon. Have myself some lunch. Okay, so did that. Oh, actually, what I'm gonna do first is, yeah. get a new strand here. Except what I may actually do first, instead of starting a new one. Yeah. Just had a thought. I think I have some short pieces here. Let's take a look if I do. Yes. Perfect. I have one here that is short enough for just one stitch, so I'm just going to do that first. I'll attach another piece later. Okay, I did that because then I want to do a bunch at once. So I'm going to do like this and then carry it on over to the right hand side there. We'll see how long this strand is because, yeah, it's one that was on a bobbin, and so I had to cut it. I couldn't cut it quite in the same length as my other pieces. Because, yeah, what I do now is I unwind the whole thing, fold it in half 3 times, and then cut that so that I have 8 equal pieces. Yeah, I wanted to use up what was left on my bobbins first, obviously. So. So I think I'll finish up what these ones that are highlighted, and then that's where I'm going to take my break for today. Didn't get 200 today. I've been usually getting about 200, but yeah, there are quite a few color changes in this area, so that slowed things down. But the detail's all worth it in the end, right? Yeah, we think I have a lot of part threads. I saw somebody who was doing a max color pattern, and holy cow, you could almost not see the fabric through all the threads they had parked. Yeah, that was amazing looking. But yeah, I personally find the regular amount of colors is sufficient for me. I'm always happy with the level of shading. I'm not willing to do that much extra work. Maybe one day, but for the moment, no plans for that. I think if you're going for the super size, then the max color is probably more sense then, because there's actually more pixels involved, right? Because if you're doing the same size max color, people say there's more details. Like, no, there's more shading. Yeah, the details are the same because it's the same size, but the color changes are more subtle because there are more of them. Yeah, so, oh dear. Well, why would you do that to me, huh? I hate when that happens. Yeah, you're going to be on the front if I do that. Okay, so I'm going to tack this down over here so that extremely skinny little knot will stay on the back side of the work. big knots I cut out, but when they're really small like that, I can deal. So yeah, feel like stopping and starting when it's such a tiny one. It's not going to leave a lump on the back or anything like that. So not a problem. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone.